Hello guys, welcome back to Anime Moments. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Against the Gods based on novel. So let's start explanation. You want to venture alone? No. Definitely not. Feng Hongkong unhesitantly shook his head. The world within this profound arc is strange and unclear, and even Royal Father has to be extremely careful in this place. In case we encounter some sort of danger, you have to stay by Royal Father's side at every given moment, otherwise, Royal Father definitely won't be able to feel at ease. But Royal Father had said before that this place can be considered the absolute safest place in the entire primordial profound arc, while the place Royal Father is currently heading to is instead more dangerous. If Shui is only going to play around in the surroundings, isn't that much safer? Feng Shui said with a soft voice. This, Feng Hongkong blanked, but still shook his head afterwards. Shui, ever since you were young, you have never left Divine Phoenix City, nor have you ever gone to a dangerous place alone. Hence, Royal Father isn't able to feel at ease at all if we leave you alone. Shui knows. Shui has grown up in the protection of Royal Father and the various elders since childhood. But Shui has to grow up someday, and can't be under Royal Father's protection for everything she's going to do in her life. This year, Shui is already 16 years old, and she has long been at the age where she should be able to make her own decisions and train herself. Incidentally, isn't this place a very good start? Could it be that Royal Father wishes for Shui to grow up under protection forever, and not find her own world forever? Feng Shui's voice carried a deep hopeful feeling within, and even a small hint of desire. Feng Hongkong's heart stirred greatly. However, he was still unable to feel at ease having Feng Shui truly move on her own in this dangerous place. After all, for so many years, he had already gotten used to providing Feng Shui with the most extreme level of protection. Just as he was about to speak up, Feng Feiyan came forward, and spoke by his ears. Sect Master, what Shui has said isn't wrong either. She's already 16 years old this year. Though providing her protection with all our might isn't wrong, we can't protect her like this forever. Otherwise, she would never be able to act on her own accord, and instead waste her bloodline and strength. Furthermore, the ranking tournament yesterday had already exposed Shui's strength. There's no need to conceal it any longer. And with Shui's strength, within a radius of 10,000 kilometers, there's basically nothing that could possibly threaten her. If we were to speak of the rest who are venturing alone, even if Yi Xinghan and Ji Qianro were to combine their strengths, it wouldn't be possible for them to be Shui's match either. If Sect Master is still worried, Feng Feiyan cast an odd glance at Feng Hongkong. Then I will stay behind, and protect Shui from the shadows. And at the same time, what Feng Feiyan had said was right. With Feng Shui's strength, it's impossible for her to be in danger within a radius of 10,000 kilometers. If she were to be protected by Feng Feiyan from the shadows as well, then it would be more than just foolproof. At the same time, having Feng Feiyan kill Yunche would be a foolproof plan as well. Feng Hongkong dropped his doubts, and slowly nodded towards Feng Shui. All right then. What Shui said is right. You have already grown up, and it is indeed time for you to make your own decisions and train yourself. But you must remember what Royal Father has told you before. Be careful at all times. What? Thank you, Royal Father. Then Shui will be going off on her own now. Royal Father, you must remember to be careful as well. Feng Shui responded with incomparable joy, then waved her hands at Feng Hongkong. Lightly ascending into the air, she flew towards the east, which was also the direction which Yunche and Xie Yuanba had left towards earlier. This child, Feng Hongkong smiled as he shook his head. Sect Master, be at ease. There's nothing here that can possibly threaten Shui. Furthermore, I'm protecting her from the shadows as well. So, Sect Master, please leave with a peace of mind. Feng Feiyan said with a chuckle. Not long after, Feng Feiyan ascended into the air as well, and leisurely flew towards the direction Feng Shui had gone. Master had said before that this place is a high-level world. But I don't understand what a high-level world means in the slightest. Though, in this place, transmission jades and all message-transmitting items are unusable. Even using one's profound energy to transmit his or her own voice is not possible either. The range one can sense with his or her profound energy will be small as well. Because Yunche had yet to possess the ability to fly, Xie Yuanbao walked on foot with him. The two of them had leisurely walked for a few kilometers, yet what they could only see was still a patch of grassland, with no end in sight. After hearing what Xie Yuanbao had said at the end, Yunche tried to release his perception. As expected, his perception was only capable of reaching a distance of no more than 60 meters, and he was unable to stretch any further than that. It really is very strange, Yunche said. 2 years ago, the Heaven Basin secret realm he entered was an independent small world as well. However, the feeling of this primordial profound arc world was greatly different from the Heaven Basin secret realm. As for which parts were different, he wasn't able to tell. The two of them spoke as they progressed forward, gradually increasing their speed. Though, on this grassland area, they did not encounter any profound beasts, nor did they see even the smallest stalk of an abnormal or precious herb. It was barren to the point where they were becoming muddleheaded. After more than 2 hours, they finally stepped out of the grassland area, and in front of them was shockingly a wasteland with no end in sight. After entering the wasteland, the wind became gentle and desolate. The surrounding air had also undergone a subtle change. This extremely small change had also caused Yunche's alertness to unconsciously rise. As expected, after walking but a few steps forward, a giant black shadow suddenly sprang out from behind a gigantic boulder, pouncing straight towards Yunche and Xie Yuanbao. It was shockingly a giant scorpion. Its long scorpion tail glowed radiantly with the color of deadly poison. Yunche's wrist moved, and with a flash of his body, he instantly appeared right below the giant scorpion. With lightning speed, Dragon Fault was smashed out, striking ruthlessly at the giant scorpion's abdomen. Bang! The giant scorpion was smashed tumbling in the sky, before it heavily landed onto the ground. At the very moment it landed, Xie Yuanbao quickly charged, and with a growl, he smashed his fist at the giant scorpion's body. An instant later, the giant scorpion's body was instantly blasted apart with an explosive sound, scattering into countless shattered pieces as they flew far away. Streams of black blood spilled out, and the places where they had poured onto had dyed the entire ground in complete black. Among them, 2 drops fell onto Xian Yuanbao's arm. Yunche hurriedly stepped forward, and used the sky poison pearl to purify the poison on Xie Yuanbao's body. At the same time, he was secretly shocked. The body of this poisonous giant scorpion was incomparably tough. The heavy horizontal strike from his dragon fault was only able to send it flying, yet its body had not been wounded. Yet Xie Yuanbao, without borrowing the strength of a weapon and just by casually swinging a fist, was able to smash it into smithereens. The strength that Xie Yuanbao currently possessed had actually reached such terrifying heights. Profound beasts are starting to appear. Brother-in-law, you have to be more careful. Xie Yuanbao kicked away the chunk of its corpse next to his feet, and then, as he waved about his arms again, he said, "But brother-in-law, there's no need to be too worried. There won't be any profound beasts that are too strong in this vicinity. With brother-in-law's strength and mine, there's nothing that can threaten us. If your sister were to find out about your current strength, she would definitely be in for a huge shock." Yunche looked at Xie Yuanbao and said very seriously, "Big brother Yun." At this moment, a clear and spirited voice, as though it was heavenly music to the ears, could be heard behind them. Yunche paused his steps and hurriedly turned his head around. This voice was clearly Feng Shui's voice. The moment he turned around, he saw the figure of a teenage girl with peerless and illusory-like beauty in the sky. She slowly floated down from the sky, and the beauty of her posture was like a firefly demonstrating an elegant dance. Although she was still wearing the phoenix jade-glazed coronet, Yunche was still able to sense her joyful feelings. "Shui, why are you here? Where's your royal father and the rest of them?" Feng Shui landed next to Yunche and said happily, "Royal father and the rest have went to investigate the inner areas of the profound arc, and allowed me to freely move on my own. Why would your royal father allow you to be alone? In the past, he wouldn't even permit you to leave Divine Phoenix City." Yunche said in shock. He. Feng Shui smiled sweetly. I told Father the words that Big Brother Yun had told me back then. I told Royal Father that I have already grown up, that I have reached the age where I should be independent, and make my own decisions, so Royal Father agreed to it. Is that so? Yun Che slightly nodded. Even though he still had doubts that Feng Hongkong would really feel at ease in allowing Feng Shui to freely move on her own in this world where unknown dangers could still exist, Feng Shui was currently standing right in front of him, so he had no choice but to believe it. Seeing Feng Shui, who was now beside him, Yun Che's mood naturally lifted. Initially, he had thought that it would be a long time before he could face her at such a close proximity once again. He never expected that he would gain the opportunity to interact with her so soon. With a smile, he said, "Then, Shui, do you want to venture with us?" "Mn." Feng Shui nodded very strongly. If her phoenix jade-glazed crown was removed at this moment, it would be possible to see a pair of eyes which had already curved into bright new moons. She cheerfully said, "Then, Big Brother Yun, you have to protect Shui, all right? Oh, and bulky Big Brother, you have to protect Shui as well." Bulky Big Brother had been staring straight at the two of them. Only when Feng Shui spoke to him did he regain his senses, and asked with widened eyes, "Brother-in-law, you two know each other?" Mn. Yun Che nodded. "Shui had once saved my life." When Yun Che uttered these words, the Aishia Yuanba had been looking at Feng Shui with instantly underwent a severe change. She had once saved Yun Che. Just by this point alone, forget about her being the Princess Snow of Divine Phoenix sect. Even if she was an extremely vile old demonic grandma, he would still respect her, and be thankful to her all the same. With a pat to his chest, he said, "You have saved my brother-in-law's life, then that's the same as having saved my life. Don't worry, if anyone dares to bully you, no matter if it's a man or a profound beast, I definitely won't let any of them off." Hey, wait a minute. Xie Yuanbao suddenly recalled the evaluation spiritual master Ji Yu Kang had given Feng Shui yesterday. His voice came to a sudden halt, and then, he began to stutter a little. "Little miss. Oh no, no. Princess Snow, is your profound strength, really, half-step from the sovereign profound?" "That's right." Feng Shui nodded very casually, as though in her opinion, it wasn't really a matter that's worth to be proud or mindful of. When I'm 20 years old, my profound strength should be able to reach the actual sovereign profound realm. Am I really incredible? Incredible. Incredible. Xie Yuanbao strongly swallowed down a mouthful of saliva, and nodded with a stiff expression. He stayed in absolute monarch sanctuary for nearly 2 years, and had seen countless numbers of experts who he thought only existed in legends. His outlook of the world had long changed from what it was before. However, even in absolute monarch sanctuary, there had never been an appearance of a monarch below the age of 20. Forget about Xie Yuanba, even spiritual master Ji Yu Kang was stunned on sight when he found out about Feng Shui's strength. You're really only 16 years old. How exactly do you cultivate?" Xian Yuanba couldn't help but ask. "That's a secret, so I can't tell you that, all right?" Feng Shui cheerfully replied, and then came to Yun Che's side. "Big Brother Yun, where should we head to play? In the next 22 hours, I'm able to once again pass my time with Big Brother Yun. I'm so happy." "Shui, where do you wish to go?" Actually, anywhere is fine. Let me tell Big Brother Yun a secret. The reason why I left Royal Father and moved on my own was in order to find Big Brother Yun. But this place is really spacious, and my perception range has been terribly reduced as well. Earlier, I had even gotten lost. And here I thought I wouldn't be able to find you." Xie Yuanba, who was left hanging by the side, looked blankly at the two people who were standing affectionately together, and he silently stretched out his hand to scratch his head. Their relationship seemed to look really good. But strange, didn't Master say that Princess Snow of Divine Phoenix sect had never permitted anyone to make contact with her? At the same time, in another place. Divine Phoenix Great Elder? Why are you here? Yi Xinghan turned around, and with narrowed eyes, he looked towards Feng Feiyan who had come to look for him. Yu Ji and Mai Ji beside him had slowly scattered aside as well, revealing a dagger in each of their hands. Their expressions had turned icy cold as well. This world within the primordial profound arc was the best place for a murder to take place, because no one else in the vicinity would be able to see or sense if a person was killed here. After the primordial profound arc disappeared, all traces would completely disappear, allowing the murderer to return scot-free. Feng Fei Yan was the great elder of Divine Phoenix sect, and even more so, a high-level overlord who was at the 8th level of the Tyrant Profound Realm. Naturally, Yi Xinghan wasn't his match. There's no need to be worried. This Divine Phoenix Great Elder is the smartest person in entire Divine Phoenix sect. The reason he has come to find this young master can only be for a good matter, and not a bad one. Yi Xinghan stretched his hand, and took the initiative to walk towards Feng Fei Yan. You didn't go to investigate with Feng Hongkong and the rest? Could it be that you're assigned for something else? Ho ho. Feng Fei Yan gave a meaningful smile. I'm of course here to bring young Hall Master good news. I'm preparing to send young Hall Master that huge gift. There's no longer a need to wait for tomorrow or the day after, as it can be done today. And it can also be done absolutely flawlessly. Oh. Yi Xinghan's face tilted upwards. Feng Shui, whom young Hall Master wishes to have, did not accompany Feng Hongkong to investigate the deep areas. Instead, she's moving on her own, and the reason why I didn't follow them into the depths was to comply with Feng Hongkong's intentions. Protect Feng Shui from the shadows, and at the same time, kill Yunche, that rat who overestimated himself. Feng Fei Yan's words caused Yi Xinghan's eyes to release an odd light. Right after, he stretched out both of his arms, raised his head skywards, and began to laugh maniacally. Inside of the primordial profound arc, a vast wasteland. After proceeding onward for yet another 2 hours more, the world before them was still a stretch of wasteland. If one could only use one word to express Yunche's feelings, it would be bored. In addition, there was not the least bit of excitement, nervousness, or mysterious feeling in exploring a different world. As far as the eye could see, it was all wasteland. There were barely any larger than usual rocks. 1 or 2 profound beasts would scuttle about, but they were all beaten to a pulp by one of Xie Yuanbao's punches. He simply did not need to do anything. During his last adventure inside the Heaven Basin secret realm, there was a sky filled with flying snow, there was danger, there were great encounters. In comparison, this place was simply dull to the extreme. There was not much to see, no encounters, and no risks at all. Fortunately, the delightful Feng Shui was by his side. Jasmine, did you sense anything? Yunche asked casually. This is an independent world's wasteland. Jasmine said indifferently, the first place you guys landed in was basically this world's only green area. All other places are wastelands, and the deeper you go, the more desolate it becomes. What does this mean? Yunche asked. It means that this world is dying. Jasmine answered, even though this world still has profound beasts, you should also realize that not only are the profound beasts here few in number, they all have hard outer armor. They are all profound beasts that are extremely resistant to extremely poor environments. After a few more millennia, these extremely durable profound beasts will also gradually go extinct. By that time, this world will completely become a dead world. Why would this world die? This is an independent world, not a natural world born from the large universe. Since it is a self-made independent world, its existence relies on the support of certain forces. Once the power that supports this world disappears, this world will also slowly and naturally become desolate and die. Yunche. Big brother Yun, I heard yesterday that you're Blue Wind's prince consort. Your wife is also a princess, so Big brother Yun's wife must be really pretty, right? Feng Shui tilted her head to look at Yunche as she asked with curiosity. Before Yunche could answer, Xie Yuanbao had already moved closer and replied seriously, Senior Sister Shueruo is indeed beautiful, but she's not as beautiful as my big sister, and my big sister is brother-in-law's big wife. Even though Senior Sister Shueruo is a princess, she's only a little wife. As the younger brother of Xie Qingyu, Xie Yuanbao had a small instinctive hostility toward Yunche's latter wife, Qingyu, but due to Kang Yu's noble identity as a princess and her sweet-tempered disposition, he couldn't help but feel a sense of crisis for his elder sister. So when Feng Shui mentioned Yun Che's wife, and even directly mentioned Princess Kang Yu, he quickly stepped in and upheld his sister's first wife position. If not for the fact that he couldn't beat Xie Yuanba, Yun Che really wanted to kick him flying. Ah? As expected, Feng Shui's cherry lips gaped open in amazement. Big brother Yun, you actually have 2 wives. Cough cough, this, you also know that your big brother Yun has great charm. Some things cannot be opposed with one's will. Yun Che explained incoherently. But he never expected for Feng Shui to nod and answer seriously, "Amen, right. Big brother Yun is so nice, so there must be many girls who like him. Big brother Yun having 2 wives at the age of 19, doesn't seem to be much. Royal father has more than 460 wives, way more than big brother Yun, you know." More than 460. Yun Che sucked in a breath of cold air. As expected, being an emperor was so comfortable that it made one envy. Wait. More than 460 wives, yet only had 14 sons and 1 daughter. Doesn't seem too special. After thinking about the latter, Yun Che's mind immediately calmed. He nodded, and said earnestly, "Amen. I will learn from Shui's royal father and work hard in that aspect. Shui, I have a few questions to ask you. If you can answer them, answer them. If you don't feel comfortable answering them, you don't have to." "Amen, big brother Yun, go ahead." Feng Shui replied cheerfully. Yun Che arranged his thoughts and asked, "Shui, before you turned 16, was most of your time spent beside your sect's Phoenix God?" The 2 words, Phoenix God, caused a slight pause to appear in Feng Shui's footsteps. After a moment of silence, she nodded lightly. "Yes, Lord Phoenix God suddenly appeared on the day I was born and brought me to its side, all the way until I turned 8, which was when I first saw my royal father. Then, most of my time was still spent by Lord Phoenix God's side, until the year I turned 13. Feng Shui's voice cracked, then didn't continue any further. Yun Che was able to guess that the Lord Phoenix God had died in the year Feng Shui turned 13, which was 3 years ago. Of course, he wasn't going to ask Feng Shui to confirm this fact, because even in Divine Phoenix sect, there was probably not many in the sect who knew that the Phoenix spirit was already dead. It was an humongous secret that could not be spread out. He pondered, then asked, "Then had your Lord Phoenix God ever talked to you about another Phoenix God?" Feng Shui lifted her head. Her beautiful eyes silently looked at Yun Che for a while, then she lightly nodded. Lord Phoenix God is one of the 2 remnant spirits that the divine Phoenix beast left behind in the profound sky continent a long time ago, a guide to test those who are worthy of the Phoenix power and pass on its legacy. One of them is our divine Phoenix Empire's Lord Phoenix God. The other is in Blue Wind Nation. Lord Phoenix God told me this a long time ago. Feng Shui said slowly. She looked at Yun Che. "You asked me yesterday why I taught you the world ode of the Phoenix even though I knew you were the other Phoenix God's inheritor. In fact, I only half answered it yesterday. The other half of the reason was that it was Lord Phoenix God's wish." Phoenix God's wish. Yun Che's brows twitched violently. Lord Phoenix God was originally a pure Phoenix spirit, but due to it staying in profound sky continent for a long time, its pure spirit was polluted by the mortal world's filth, making it give birth to feelings it shouldn't have, making it desire to be the only Phoenix spirit in the profound sky continent and claim the entire profound sky continent as its own. As a result, it broke away from its bindings and left the trial grounds for Blue Wind Nation in order to find the other Phoenix spirit. After a fierce battle, it annihilated the other spirit, but it also suffered heavy injuries. Not only had its power weakened by several times, its lifespan of more than several 10,000 years had been reduced to a few thousand years. Even World Ode of the Phoenix had been damaged by the fierce battle, fragmented. What Feng Shui had said and what Yun Che had heard from the Phoenix spirit's own mouth back then in the trial grounds was exactly the same. Only, the Phoenix spirit didn't actually die that year and its World Ode of the Phoenix had broken to the point where only the 5th and 6th stages remained. Then, as Lord Phoenix God's lifespan gradually approached its end, it saw through many things, so its filth slowly diluted. In regards to that year, it felt evil and regretted destroying the other Phoenix spirit. However, 3 years ago, when Lord Phoenix God was about to, Lord Phoenix God suddenly felt the existence of the other Phoenix spirit and another Phoenix bloodline inheritor. It told me that if I ever met the other Phoenix successor, I should be peaceful and teach him the world ode of the Phoenix. Because Lord Phoenix God had lost the 5th and 6th stages of the world ode of the Phoenix during the battle back then, and it had completely destroyed the other Phoenix spirit's world ode of the Phoenix. Even if the successor obtained the Phoenix bloodline, he would never be able to cultivate Phoenix profound arts. Yunche listened in earnest, baffled. Even though Feng Shui was trying to cover it up as much as she could, most of her words all indicated that the Phoenix spirit had already died. What surprised him was that the Phoenix God, which the Phoenix spirit had warned him to be careful of, the one he was the most afraid of before coming to Divine Phoenix sect, had already regretted and confessed its crime and betrayal. The world was truly full of unpredictable happenings. I never expected that Big Brother Yun would actually be the other Lord Phoenix God's inheritor, and even obtained its original power and soul. Oh, right. Big Brother Yun, how does the other Lord Phoenix God look like? Is it still well? Feng Shui asked excitedly. Looks like, Yunche pondered, then said somewhat helplessly, actually, I never clearly saw what it looked like. Every time I saw it, I only saw 2 dazzling gold eyes. Right now it's somewhere in Blue Wind Nation. It had also told me about a few of the grievances between it and your Lord Phoenix God that year. Once I return back to Blue Wind, it seems that I have to talk to it about this. It ought to feel quite a bit relieved by it. Amen. Feng Shui nodded. Then, her expression became misty. Actually, when Lord Phoenix God found out that the other Phoenix spirit had not died, it really was happy. Like, its greatest worry had been unknotted. So when I found out that Big Brother Yun was the other Phoenix spirit's successor, I was also very happy. Just as Yunche was about to say something, an ear-piercing voice suddenly sounded from behind. Oh, isn't this my incomparably beautiful little sister Shui? Meeting you in such a vast mysterious world is truly this young master's fortune. Yunche, Feng Shui, and Xie Yuanbao turned around at the same time. No less than 300 meters away from them was a black-attired Yi Xinghan who held onto his 2 seductive women. His face full of smiles did not cover up the slightest bit of his insolence and excessive lewdness as he casually walked their way. Yi Xinghan? Yunche muttered as his brows instantly furrowed. Yi Xinghan's dangerous smile and expression immediately unsettled him greatly. He quietly uttered, Yuanbao, careful. Oh, Yunche's words made Xie Yuanbao stiffen. He slightly nodded as every vein on his thick arms all bulged outwards. Xie Yuanbao was a mid-stage overlord, and Feng Shui was a half-step monarch. Yi Xinghan's was also a mid-stage overlord, so if he wanted to fight, he was definitely not a match for both Xie Yuanbao and Feng Shui. But it was exactly because of this that Yunche was even more unsettled, because there was an expression of having something up his sleeve which clearly indicated that his prey was in his hands, in Yi Xinghan's eyes. Young Hall Master Yi. Feng Shui greeted. Oh tilde, Yi Xinghan's long, thin eyes narrowed as he stared fixedly at Feng Shui's beautiful goddess-like figure, not seeing Yunche or Xie Yuanbao at all. Little sister Shui, you're being too formal. Calling me Young Hall Master Yi is too dull and distant. I want little sister Shui to call me Big Brother Yi. The frivolity in Yi Xinghan's voice was extremely heavy, and his eyes were even more so, filled with naked lust. During the ranking tournament yesterday, although he was arrogant, it was definitely not to such extent. Under his gaze, Feng Shui instantly felt uncomfortable throughout her entire body, as she replied. Due to Young Hall Master Yi's esteemed position, Shui does not dare to refer to you in such a casual manner. If Young Hall Master Yi does not have any other matters, then Shui will continue to sightsee. After saying that, just as Feng Shui was about to turn around and no longer pay Yi Xinghan another mind, Yi Xinghan, however, said smilingly. Little sister Shui, don't be in such a rush to leave. This young master has a very important matter to talk about. 3 years ago, this young master has heard of little sister Shui's reigning beauty, incomparable by anyone else in the world, hence, I have always wished to personally witness little sister Shui's fairy-like appearance. Above the stage yesterday, under the watchful eyes of the masses, even though this young master holds this strong wish, I could not bear to have little sister's fairy-like appearance be tainted by the eyes of a bunch of mortals. Then I wonder if little Schwer is able to fulfill this young master's wish today. Please forgive Schwer for refusing. Schwer's looks are crude and difficult to enter young hall master's eyes. Feng Shui used a calm tone and rejected him with the exact same words as yesterday. This person in front of her, called Yi Xinghan, caused her to feel a very intense disgust for the first time in her life. However, Yi Xinghan was not angry in the slightest. Instead, he began to laugh out loud. Ha 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 ha, that's fine as well. Though today is different from yesterday, there are still two ridiculous and unpleasant brats. This young master isn't really in a hurry either. In any case, before long, little sister Schwer will only belong to me, Yi Xinghan. When that time comes, in this world, little sister Schwer's appearance can only be seen by me alone. Facing each other under the moonlight, while enjoying your appearance all to myself. Now that's the real beauty in this world. Ha 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 ha. Yunche. You, Feng Shui turned sullen. You're the young hall master of Sun Moon Divine Hall, how can spout such nonsense? Nonsense? Heh, Yi Xinghan smiled immorally. This young master has never spoken any nonsense, especially when it's matters regarding little sister Schwer. The reason this young master has come to Divine Phoenix Empire this time was not entirely because of the 7-nation ranking tournament nor the primordial profound arc, rather, it's because of you. My little sister Schwer. After this trip in the profound arc, I will immediately ask your royal father, in other words, my future father-in-law, for your hand in marriage, and have him betroth you to me. At that moment, we will be husband and wife, and when that time comes, I will have you become someone who completely belongs to me. No other man should ever hope of making contact with your beauty. Feng Shui's voice became hurried, and under the phoenix jade-glazed coronet, her snow-like face had already turned pink from anger. You're spouting nonsense. Like I will ever become your wife? And it's definitely impossible for my royal father to accept your proposal either. If you speak nonsense again, then I will really get angry. Even when my little sister Schwer become angry, your voice is still so pleasant to the ears. Yi Xinghan laughed out sinisterly. His demeanor was full of self-arrogance, as though everything had already fallen into the palm of his hands. But when it comes to something that I, Yi Xinghan, wishes for, I have never failed to obtain it. When it's a matter that I, Yi Xinghan, has decided on. Even if it's your royal father Feng Henkong, when the time comes, he would have no choice but to accept it either. Shut your mouth. A rumbling thunder-like voice suddenly descended from the sky, and following after, a human figure flashed, appearing right in the front of Feng Shui with lightning speed, as he furiously stared at Yi Xinghan. Young Hall Master Yi, our Divine Phoenix Empire has always respected the sacred grounds, and even more so respect you, a guest who had traveled far to come here. I never expected that you would actually spout such arrogant remarks, and even dare to offend Schwer and my sect master with your words. What are your motives? Great Elder. Seeing the figure who had suddenly appeared, Feng Shui cried out softly. How are you here? Aren't you supposed to be royal father and the rest? Feng Fei Yan turned his head around, and lightly smiled. Sect master was worried about you being alone, so he had me protect you from the shadows. But I never expected that. HMPH, that there would actually be someone who dares to offend you when we're not around. Schwer, don't worry. Even if he's the young hall master of Sun Moon Divine Hall, since he dared to offend you, I will definitely not let him off either. Thank you, Great Elder. Feng Shui gently said. With the Great Elder here, her anxious and angry emotions had softened a great deal as well. Brother-in-law, what is this situation? Wu, it seems like we don't have any part in this, right? Xie Yuanbao softly said. Yunche didn't reply, his gaze turning even more solemn. However, at this moment, his gaze was not falling on Yi Xinghan, but rather on Feng Fei Yan. Because from his figure, he suddenly sensed that something was wrong. He was unable to say what was wrong concretely, and it was just his gut feeling. Oh, isn't this the Divine Phoenix Great Elder? You did not head over to investigate that so-called primordial treasure, but instead ran all the way here. Now that sure is unexpected. Yi Xinghan said with a chuckle. This young master has completely no intention to offend your divine phoenix sect. I merely wish to marry my little sister Shui. Give up. Feng Fei Yan said with a solemn face. Not only is Shui the princess of divine phoenix sect, she's even the person personally chosen by our sect's phoenix god. She's the direct successor of the phoenix god. In this world, there's no one who is worthy of her. And sect master will definitely not agree to it either. He will not agree to it? Ha 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 ha, Yi Xinghan burst out in a disdainful, maniacal laughter. And how are you people going to go about refusing it? Do you really think the divine phoenix sect now is still the same divine phoenix sect of the past? Feng Fei Yan's expression slightly changed. Yi Xinghan, what do you mean by that? What do I mean? Great Elder, you should be more clear of the situation that this young master. Yi Xinghan coldly smiled. The growth speed of your divine phoenix sect is indeed astonishing. In just a short 5,000 years, you people have already begun to gradually approach the level of our sacred grounds. And with the existence of your phoenix god, the four great sacred grounds didn't dare to apply pressure, and simply allowed you to grow. After all, in this profound sky continent your phoenix god is the one and only divine spirit which had truly touched the divine profound realm. Under the phoenix god's protection, if given another 5,000 years, there might be a possibility that you people can really surpass the level of our sacred grounds. But, unfortunately, your strongest protector has already disappeared. Do you people really think that we do not know that the phoenix god had long been dead since 3 years ago? Without the existence of the phoenix god, what qualifications do you people have to challenge our sacred grounds? Ah! Yi Xinghan's words caused Feng Shui to exclaim out, while Feng Fei Yan's expression had even more so, changed drastically, as he said with a sharp tone. What a bunch of nonsense! Lord Phoenix God of our divine phoenix sect is a divine spirit of the phoenix which possesses an endless lifespan, and can never ever die. You actually spout such offensive remarks. Ha 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 ha, Phoenix Great Elder, in regards to the life and death of the Phoenix God, you're more clear of it in your heart than this young master. With such a huge sect, you people actually play out such deceitful acts. Don't you find it laughable and shameless? Heh? Do you actually think that without the existence of the Phoenix God, the four great sacred grounds will allow your divine Phoenix sect to continue growing any further? Feng Fei Yan's expression turned extremely ugly. This young master has currently set his sights on little sister Shui, and that's a huge gift that I'm bestowing to your divine Phoenix sect. Yi Xinghan stretched out his palms, pushing them up to the sky. That arrogant posture of his was as though he was a peerless emperor who was in control of the world. Sun Moon Divine Hall will one day come into my hands. With the marriage intertwining my Sun Moon Divine Hall and Divine Phoenix sect, if the other three sacred grounds wish to suppress the Divine Phoenix sect, then they will have to still give face to my Sun Moon Divine Hall. If the marriage cannot be established. Yi Xinghan's palms slowly lowered as his face revealed an extremely insidious light smile. Then the other methods this young master has in his disposal might not be as gentle. As for your divine Phoenix sect, let alone suppression, in regards to whether it still exists 1,000 years later is still an uncertainty. Phoenix Great Elder, you must have heard of the eternal night royal family of 1,000 years ago. Heh. Such a huge eternal night royal family was exterminated just like that. In a mere 1,000 years, every trace of it had disappeared, and even its name had completely been forgotten. This is so unfortunate and pitiful. In Yi Xinghan's speech, seemingly every single one of his words was piercing right into Feng Fei Yan's Achilles heel, causing his body to tremble. Feng Shui's expression was becoming paler as well. Although she had never inquired about the sex matters, and knew very little regarding the structure of the profound world, she knew that the death of the Phoenix God was a heavenly secret which definitely could not be leaked out of Divine Phoenix sect. In the entire sect, only but a few people knew about it as well. Why did this Yi Xinghan know about it? This is really a bunch of nonsense. Feng Fei Yan clenched his fists and phoenix flames exploded above them while extremely intense profound aura stirred around his entire body. Yi Xinghan. Just by those words you spoke earlier, forget about the fact that you're the young Hall Master of Sun Moon Divine Hall. If you're the Heavenly King himself, I will still kill you. Oh? Did your humiliation turn into anger and you now wish to kill me? Ha 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 ha, Yi Xinghan laughed maniacally with his head raised. Then come. Allow me to witness just what the so-called Phoenix Great Elder is capable of. You're courting death. Feng Fei Yan loudly roared, and the flames in his hands once again surged as the profound energy from his entire body stirred crazily. Evidently, he had already completely brought out his entire profound energy out of anger. The strength of an aura brought about a high-stage overlord completely stopped Yunche from breathing. However, the uneasiness in his heart had grown to its limit at this moment as well. Looking at Feng Fei Yan's actions, his pupils suddenly shrank, as he roared out explosively. Yuanba, watch out! Ah? Xie Yuanba blanked. However, seemingly at that moment when Yunche's words fell, Feng Fei Yan, whose entire body was suffused with energy, fiercely turned around, and suddenly blasted his fists out. But what Yunche had completely never expected was, the person he attacked was not Xie Yuanba, it was instead Feng Shui. At that moment, Yunche's pupils had instantly shrunk to the size of a needle. He had long sensed an anomaly, yet never would he have guessed that the person Feng Fei Yan would suddenly attack was not himself, nor Xie Yuanba, but actually Feng Shui. When a high-stage overlord suddenly attacked with his full strength, forget about Yunche, even if it was Xie Yuanba, it would be impossible for him to react to it. Even if he was able to react, it would be impossible for him to block it either. And that went even more so for Feng Shui, who was behind Feng Fei Yan. She would have definitely never expected that Feng Fei Yan, Feng Hongkong's most trusted person whom had always cared about her, would actually attack her. Furthermore, her distance from Feng Fei Yan was merely less than 5 steps away. Her pupils merely quivered for a moment. Before she had time to react, she had already been struck ruthlessly in the chest by Feng Fei Yan's palm. In an instant, a blood-red-colored jade, which Feng Fei Yan had been quietly grasping in his hands, completely shattered. With his energy, he released a crimson-red profound formation, which firmly printed onto Feng Shui's body. Like a willow catkin being carried away by the light breeze, Feng Shui's body flew up, and the phoenix coronet on her head slipped off far away. Shui! The sound of the profound energy blast did not resound through his ears like it should have. Just as Yunche's face paled from shock, he charged out with lightning speed, and firmly caught onto Feng Shui. Then, stomping his feet with Star God's broken shadow, he instantly flashed 60 meters away, and at the same time, roared out loudly. Yuanba, block him! At this moment, Xie Yuanba reacted as well. Glaring with his eyes, he threw a fist towards Feng Fei Yan, and with an explosive bang, the two of them separated a good distance away. Xie Yuanba turned around in midair, landing in front of Yunche and Feng Shui, with his 2 fists faintly trembling. On the other end, Feng Fei Yan slowly floated over to Yi Xinghan's side, his face carrying a light smile with a hint of treachery and willfulness within. Shui! Shui, you alright? Shui! Yunche carried Feng Shui's soft body, as he shouted out anxiously. However, he immediately realized that there wasn't a single trace of harm on Feng Shui's body, but the presence of energy in her body had completely disappeared instead. He couldn't sense the existence of even a single hint of profound energy. Phoenix Sealing Imprisonment Formation, without the concealment from the Phoenix Coronet, Yunche once again saw Feng Shui's flawless appearance. Her face was completely pale, and her pair of beautiful eyes were quivering intensely. They were completely filled with fear, mist, and utter disbelief. In Yunche's embrace, she gently turned her head, and looked towards Feng Fei Yan, who was standing together with Yi Xinghan. Leaking out an uncertain voice, as though she was talking in her sleep, she asked, "Great Elder, why must you do this?" Feng Shui was indeed uninjured, but she was unable to use any bit of her profound strength. She was so weak that she couldn't even stand. It was as though all her strength had been sealed. Yunche was slightly relieved. He turned his head around ferociously, angrily staring at Feng Fei Yan, Feng Fei Yan. Have you gone crazy? He, swear, I'm only doing this for your own good. Feng Fei Yan laughed with a harmless-looking expression. Young Hall Master Yi will be the future master of a sacred ground. If you are to marry him, it would be the world's most perfect pairing. However, I know that your royal father will definitely not agree in this. Therefore, I have no choice but to use a little trick. After you completely become young Hall Master Yi's woman in this primordial arc and the both of you have enjoyed the body of the divine phoenix, even if your royal father doesn't agree, he wouldn't have any choice. Yunche fiercely gritted his teeth, as both his fists clenched in secret. No one would have expected that the great elder of Divine Phoenix sect, a core member of the sect whose position and reputation among his generation was only second to Feng Hongkong, the person Feng Hongkong and Feng Shui trusted the most, would actually harbor such malicious intentions. Yi Xinghan wanted to possess Feng Shui, which meant that Yunche and Xie Yuanbao would most likely be killed to keep the secret. Feng Shui's expression was sorrowful. Her eyes were clouded as though she was in a dream, the matter about Lord Phoenix God having already passed on, only me, royal father, grandfather, great-grandfather, and you knew. It was you. That's right. I was the one that told young Hall Master Yi. Feng Fei Yan directly admitted, however it's not just Sun Moon Divine Hall. The other 3 sacred grounds have probably already received this news as well. After the Phoenix God passed on, your useless royal father only knew how to try to indefinitely hide this matter. He never thought of finding a solution for Divine Phoenix sect now that we no longer have the protection of the Phoenix God. Paper can never ever wrap fire. Only with the assistance of the future Hall Master of Sun Moon Divine Hall can we ensure the prosperity of our Divine Phoenix sect. This is the best way for Divine Phoenix sect to proceed. Yunche laughed coldly. A solution for Divine Phoenix sect? You're obviously finding an escape for yourself. You even chose to betray the entire Divine Phoenix sect. Simply too despicable. Even after being scolded by Yunche, Feng Fei Yan was not angry, but instead laughed loudly. Ha 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 ha, every man for his own and the devil takes the hindmost. Without the Phoenix God, Divine Phoenix sect's powers will deteriorate quickly, and might even become a subject of the 4 sacred divine grounds, never able to return to its former glory. As long as I am loyal towards young Hall Master Yi. I believe that when he feels my loyalty, he would definitely treat me kindly. That is natural. I personally am fond of smart men like Great Elder. When Yi Xinghan was speaking, his eyes were firmly on Feng Shui's fairy-like appearance. He has had numerous women, but only until today did he realize that a woman could be beautiful to such an extent. He even felt that all the numerous women he had conquered up till today could not compare to a bit of her fairy-like appearance, even if their beauty were all added together. He stretched his hands out, his fingers gripped continuously as he could not longer wait. He wanted to immediately conquer this girl who should not even belong to the human world. Feng Shui's chest rose intensely. She rarely interacted with the outside world and grew up under the most extreme form of protection and never knew of the world's dangers at all. She closed her eyes as she uttered sadly, "Why is it like this? This isn't real. Big Brother Yun. This isn't real. That brat. You seem to be called Yunche?" Yi Xinghan stared at Yunche, who was currently carrying Feng Shui with a massive killing intent. Immediately let go of this young master's Shui and scram. Perhaps I can still consider leaving you with a full corpse. Garbage such as you are not fit to touch my Shui's jade body. Yunche carried Feng Shui and stood up, his gaze similarly emitted an icy cold killing intent. This matter was originally of no concern for Yunche and Xie Yuanba, but now that he was present, he would definitely not be able to escape this situation. When Yi Xinghan and Feng Fei Yan conversed, they didn't hide anything from him and Xie Yuanba. Clearly, they had already been treated as dead. Big Brother Yun, Feng Shui, who was in his arms, softly said, "I have been sealed by the Phoenix Sealing Imprisonment Formation. This is a forbidden formation used to seal off the profound strength of disciples who have committed heinous acts. Though I have the protection of the Phoenix God's powers, for the next 24 hours, I won't be able to exert any strength. I don't want, by that evil man, so. Big Brother Yun, please, can you kill me?" Yunche felt his heart tighten as he saw Feng Shui's beautiful eyes turn dull, losing all its former glory. All that was left was now despair and sadness. He breathed out heavily and hugged Feng Shui even more tightly, gently saying, "Shui, don't be scared. Unless I'm dead, I won't let anyone harm you." Some vibrance returned to Feng Shui's eyes. She looked tenderly at Yunche's eyes, meekly saying, "Big brother Yun. Die?" Seeing that Yunche wasn't letting go of Feng Shui, but instead hugging her more tightly, Yi Xinghan was instantly enraged. He had not even managed to touch a piece of clothing on Feng Shui, the one who gave him the greatest hunger of his life, yet this garbage was hugging her in front of him. He swung his hand, and soon, a cold glinting jade fan appeared in his right hand. This jade fan was an item that was always kept with Yi Xinghan. It was not just a simple fan. When the fan appeared in the hands of Yi Xinghan, even Feng Feiyan who was beside him shuddered. The name of the fan was Sun Moon Calamity, created with heavenly Brahma jade which had undergone more than 10,000 years of shine under the sun and moon. It was one of only 10 tyrant profound artifacts within the entire profound sky continent. Simply relying on the Sun Moon Calamity, Yi Xinghan's powers would be raised by at least 3 levels. He would even be able to fight against Feng Feiyan, who was in the 8th level of the tyrant profound realm. Sun Moon Calamity shone slightly following the wrist movements of Yi Xinghan, which produced a crescent profound beam that shot straight towards Yunche's throat. Wherever the profound beam went, space was violently cut apart, accompanied by an ear-piercing tearing sound. Xie Yuanbao's huge body instantly moved, blocking Yunche's front. His rock-like fist punched out angrily. With a loud explosion, the frightening crescent profound beam exploded mid-air. A 1-inch-long bloody wound appeared on the back of Xie Yuanbao's hand. Xie Yuanbao's face turned somber as he gritted his teeth and uttered, "Brother-in-law, quickly leave, leave. Yuanbao. Leave." Xie Yuanbao howled so loudly that it even caused Yunche's entire body to shudder as he clutched his hands tightly. Xie Yuanbao was already clear about the situation at hand, and Yunche too knew it clearly. Looking at Xie Yuanbao's back and the determination coming off from him, he no longer acted hypocritical anymore. He gritted his teeth and turned around with difficulty. "Yuanbao, don't die. Remember the transportation jade on you. Definitely don't die." With Yunche's current strength, it was simply insufficient in front of Feng Feiyan and Yi Xinghan. There would be no use even if he stayed, the result would still be death. However, leaving Xie Yuanbao behind and escaping with Feng Shui meant that there would be a slim glimmer of hope for him and Feng Shui. But that also meant Xie Yuanbao would be left in mortal danger. As Yunche finished speaking, he bit his tongue and turned from Xie Yuanbao to the road in front and sprinted towards the east together with Feng Shui. He didn't turn back, but streaks of blood overflowed between his fingers. "Want to run?" Feng Feiyan laughed coldly, and just as his was about to give chase, he was stopped by Yi Xinghan, who said beamingly, "Isn't it better that they left?" Feng Feiyan was stunned. "Young Hall Master means? Do you think that garbage Yunche would be able to escape from me?" Yi Xinghan laughed in disdain. "Now that he has escaped with my Shui, we can peacefully send this disciple of Ji Yukang to his death. He is still a mid-stage overlord. Killing him would still cause quite a stir. Now that my Shui's profound strength has been sealed, she does not have any way of protecting herself. If she were to come to harm in an accident during our battle, even if it were a hair of hers, I would still feel heartbroken." Feng Feiyan nodded slowly. "No wonder. Young Hall Master has thought it through completely. However, this Xie Yuanbao is Ji Yukang's disciple. Won't there be any problems? This primordial profound arc is the perfect killing ground. No matter who dies here, there wouldn't be any troubles. The only people who knows about this is only you, me, Shui and Yunche, who's about to die. My perfect Shui will also soon become my woman. And if she's my woman, she will be implanted with a profound seal that will never disappear. All her actions, speech, will be in my control, and she will never be able to say this to anyone." "Great Elder, are there any more worries?" "Of course not." Feng Feiyan laughed ominously. "Then I would trouble young Hall Master to team up with me. For me to defeat him is but simple, but killing him would be challenging. If he were to accidentally escape, it would be troublesome. Hearing the conversation between Feng Fei Yan and Yi Xinghan, Xie Yuanbao didn't speak nor move. All the muscles in his body bulged as all the profound energy inside and on the surface of his body surged. Hearing that they didn't intend to split up and chase Yunche, but instead chose to team up and ensure his death made him secretly happy. This way, he could at least drag it out, giving Yunche slightly more time and chances to escape. CIA crack. The joints in Xie Yuanbao's body produced a cracking sound, his blood vessels became obvious, nearly bursting. His eyes were calm and composed as he stared at Yi Xinghan and Feng Fei Yan, who already treated him as dead. Brother-in-law, I finally have the chance and ability to protect you. This time, I'm betting my life. No matter what. I won't let you come to harm. Let's send him on his way. Yi Xinghan swung his jade fan and numerous crescent profound beams shot straight towards Xie Yuanbao's vitals. Die? Feng Fei Yan wildly shouted. Flames leapt up from his body, and soon the sky was instantly shrouded in fire as well. He struck down from above, instantly engulfing Xie Yuanbao's figure. Episode 76 is end here. Next episode coming tomorrow. Thanks for watching.